Welcome to Indie Authors Tell All, where independent voices take the mic. This podcast is for those engaged in or interested in independent publishing, from writing to marketing and everything in between.
We're here to shine a light on real-world challenges and successes in independent publishing, straight from the people making it happen.
Every other week, we chat with Bay Area Independent Publishers Association members and industry professionals who are shaping the future of publishing and redefining what it means to go indie.
I'm Becky Parker Geist.
I'm Judy M. Baker.
And I'm Mike Van Horn.
Real stories, real challenges, real inspiration. Now, let's dive into what it takes to write, publish, and market your book, one story at a time. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am Becky Parker Geist, and I'm excited today to be interviewing one of my co-hosts of Indie Authors Tell All, Mike Van Horn. So, Mike, welcome.
Good to be here.
So tell us a little bit initially, if you would, tell us about what you write, what kind of material.
Well, I really write in two genres, plus one. I write business workbooks. I'll actually hold up one so you can see it. They all look like this. And these are aimed at small business owners who need help growing their company. So my slogan is grow your business without driving yourself crazy. So that is kind of one side of the thing I do. On top of that, I write science fiction. And so I have a series here about a heroine who ends up going into space, and she is a singer. So I have two very different genres. And of course, one of the challenges is how do you do two genres?
Right. And for those of our listeners who aren't seeing the video, who may just be listening to the audio, tell us a little bit, tell us the titles of your books, and also a little bit about how they look very different from each other.
Okay, so going to the business workbooks, first of all, the size, 8.5 by 11. These workbooks are meant to be written in. You know, they're full of questions and blanks, and people are supposed to spend a lot of time going through them and answering them for their own business. It's not a preach or a lecture. The science fiction stories are kind of regular sized books, 6 by 9. Well, let's see. Let me just tell you the title of this. The workbook here this one's called Small Business Success Plan. And this is one for business owners. They're supposed to do this once a year, make a plan for the coming year, a practical plan of action that we do. And we've got a number of workbooks that are of that nature, kind of practical aspects of running a small business.
Right.
The science fiction is this first title. This is book one of a series, and this is called Aliens Crashed in My Backyard. And
the book size, what's their?
Yes, it's 6 by 9. And right now it's a trilogy, and I'm just on the verge of publishing book 4 of the trilogy.
Which I think is really fun. A great way to market something that's, wait a minute, book 4 of a trilogy is great. And so sometimes when people have very distinct genres, they use different pen names. Is that something that you chose to do as well?
I did, but not for the reason you might think. I'm not ashamed of my name on either of the things, but in order to publish them on Amazon and keep them in separate author pages, I have to do the science fiction under Mike Van Horn and the business books under Michael Van Horn.
Right. So there's some really interesting challenges that can come up for people who are writing in two different genres.
That's right.
And of course, we both know some people who write in very distinct genres where it's really important to keep the names separate. For example, erotica and children's books can both be written by the same
Absolutely.
person. You really don't want the parents discovering that you're also writing erotica. It could put them off. So, so some interesting challenges that go with that. What would you say as you have um, dealt with that factor, the two pen names? What has become, or what is the most challenging thing that you have found about that?
Well, the fact that I didn't start out doing that, so I had books published on one author page that I need to get off of them and have them show up on the other page. And so that's just a hassle of dealing with Amazon on something like that.
Mhm. And so there was actually an unpublishing process that was a part of your overall publishing journey.
Yes, but you've got to be careful. You don't really want to quote unpublish the book. You want it to move, but still be there.
Right. With your new pen name, did you have to change the ISBN numbers? Is that something that was an
Well,
issue?
no, I didn't have to do that because, well, for one thing, on the redone workbooks, they all have new ISBNs anyway, so it wasn't an issue.
Hmm. Yeah. So I'm asking some of these questions because I know for a lot of people who are maybe just getting into indie publishing or haven't even published yet, that they may wonder about some of these things, pen names, and what if you have more than one? And have you found any particular challenge for you in terms of the marketing side of things?
Well, I could say that I really run two different businesses. One for each genre. So I have a separate website for each, and I have a separate, I don't know, newsletter or blog or something like that for each. So and I kind of go after obviously after very different audiences. Very
Right.
few sci-fi aficionados are also interested in business workbooks, I've found.
Yeah. So how did you get into writing? And did you start with the business books or did you start with the sci-fi?
Oh boy. Well, first of all, I, I've been writing for over 50 years, and my early writings was all like technical reports on conferences. So I'm so glad to be done with that side. Um, and then this in the 1980s, um, we had a group of writers who were kind of helping each other, a critique group, and we had everybody kind of had their own thing. I was writing science fiction at that time, but I never got any of those stories finished. And why is that? Because at the same time, I had to start writing these business workbooks, and that supported my consulting practice. And so business workbooks make money. Science fiction, who knows? So I went for like 30 years with unfinished science fiction stories before I actually came back and started working on them seriously.
No, that's interesting. What would you say kind of stands out or is really special about your books? Um,
Well, so one of the things on the business books, I would say that something I mentioned earlier is that these are meant to be written on. I want people to scribble on them, and the plan workbook has a couple of plan pages in the back that you fill out and then you tear off and you put up on your wall. So I looked at first of all, Becky, I've used these workbooks in workshops that I've led for the last 30 years. So I know very well how business owners need to use these things to be useful to them. So now turning to the science fiction, um, my heroine is a singer and a composer. And so I was writing these stories, and since she's a singer, I had to write little snippets of verses of things that she was going to perform. And I thought, well, I got a few lines here. Maybe I ought to write a whole verse or maybe some lyrics. Then I had lyrics for songs. And I said, well, if I've got lyrics, I need music. So I am not a musician. I can't sing Happy Birthday. So I found a guy to compose music, and we found a vocalist to sing them. And so it ends up that I have produced a number of songs that my heroine has performed in the stories, and they're all up on SoundCloud. So
That's
I have
great.
become not only a writer, but also a quote lyricist.
Right. Amazing. That's wonderful. Um, so, um, I wanted to ask you about the business books, because many people, when they're writing nonfiction, they write it or they plan to publish for a specific reason. Like they had the goal of like either setting themselves up or making it clear that they're an expert in their field, or it could be as a tool to give away to clients or for use in a course. How were you using your nonfiction titles in relation to the work that you were doing?
So I started my current business back in the early 1990s, and I actually took it over from another guy who'd run it on a very small basis. But I started putting on these workshops, and you put on a workshop, you've got to have some material for them. So I would scribble out some notes and then talk and have people answer the questions. Well, the little scribbled notes turned into workbooks. And as I did more of them, I refined them and they became more, quote, official until I got to the point where I published them. So I mainly have used them as tools in the workshops I've led. And th- I mean, that's a very important thing, because if you're going to do this kind of work, having a tool like that makes you seem more like you're an expert, regardless of whether you know anything or not.
So, Mike, that's great. Let's just take a short pause and we're going to come right back.
Okay.
As an author, you know that writing a book is not easy, and that publishing and promoting it can be even harder. Wish you had fellow authors and professionals you could learn from, who would give you encouragement and guidance to get through the tough spots? That's what we offer at the Bay Area Independent Publishers Association, or BAIPA. We're a volunteer-run educational community dedicated to elevating the art and the business of independent publishing. Not in the San Francisco Bay Area? No worries. We have members from all over, and we meet monthly on Zoom. For just $10 a month, you get full membership benefits. Whether you're writing your next novel or children's book, launching a nonfiction book, building your author brand, or working with indie authors, BAIPA gives you the tools and the network to publish smarter, grow faster, and thrive independently. Visit BAIPA.org. That's BAIPA.org and join us today. Become part of a community that understands all the challenges of indie publishing and helps you get through them.
So, Mike, what would you say has been your greatest challenge in your publishing journey?
Without a doubt, the promotion. I love to write. I can tolerate editing, but promotion is something I would prefer to hand it off to the marketing department.
Right. I think that's true for a lot of authors. I think we certainly see that at BAIPA, that a lot of our members have expressed that very sentiment, that the marketing promotion side of things is the most challenging. Maybe, I don't know if you feel the same way. It seems to me like that authors tend to be more often than not, they work solo, right? They spend a lot of time, on their own. And then that idea of getting out there and sharing with the world what they've created can be really hard.
Yeah. Well, of course, with my business books, I had a built-in audience. So I knew who I was aiming at, and I wrote for those people, and they came to my workshops and got my books. And the book was included in the cost of the workshop. With the science fiction, it's more difficult. Um, I have a website, a blog post, but I haven't done a lot to really promote it and get people to come in and look at it.
Yeah. What would you say, so in dealing with that, the challenge of promotion, especially with the sci-fi, the fiction works, how have you dealt with that being your biggest challenge?
In terms of promotion, I want to stick with things that I am good at and enjoy doing, which means talking and writing. I can talk with anybody, as you may be able to tell. Uh, and so I belong to several groups online of other writers and other people who are interested in the issue. And that's really been the number one best thing. I have a publication on Medium, if you're familiar with that,
Mhm.
and it's for small business owners only, and that that attracts the people on Medium that are interested in this particular thing.
Yeah. And when you have some part of the publishing journey that feels like where you need support, you need, to find somebody to be on your team, how do you find those people?
Well, that is an interesting question. I mean, there are actually several different dimensions to that. One is, let's look at the writing first. I have all along had critique groups of other writers so that we meet usually once a month and help each other, give each other feedback on the things that we're writing. Well, I've been doing that for over 30 years, and it's helped me with every book that I've written. So I just find that to be an invaluable resource. Um, in terms of the publishing and the promotion, um, one of my biggest resources has been BAIPA, because I've gotten help from our mutual friend Ruth Schwartz on terms of the the outlay, the layout of the book, and the publishing side and the ebook side and all that. That makes it a lot easier to proceed in terms of working with Amazon and then working with Ingram Spark and all of that. Um, and I also have worked with some of the other people in BAPA to like do design work. Like Steve Rustad has just finished designing a new business card for me uh, for my books. And so, that's I would say those are my resources right there.
Yeah, that's great. What would you say, now you've been a member of BAPA for a long time, as we mentioned you mentioned in our welcome trailer. And what would you say is the most important thing that you get from your membership with BAPA?
Well, there are a couple of things. One is, when we have our monthly Zoom meetings, uh, often the oftentimes the best information I get comes from the Q&A right up front. Uh, Questions that I ask and then get feedback, and then somebody else over here will ask a question, and I say, "Oh, boy, I better scribble the answers to that one too." So it's just a great interchange of information.
Yeah.
And secondly, then is just the support of other authors, people who are much more successful than I am at publishing their books, people who are just starting out. And I mean, working with those people and using them as role models and as people to talk with, there's just no way to get around that.
Yeah, that's great. And let our listeners know how they can reach you and how they can learn more about the works that you're doing, your business books and your fiction.
Okay, so I'll hold up the covers again. On in terms of the business books, uh, the easiest way to find these, besides just looking on Amazon, is to go to my website, which is smallbusinessworkbooks.com. And I'll say that slowly, smallbusinessworkbooks.com. It would be the easiest way to find these. And if you then subscribe to my newsletter, I will send you a free book.
And before you continue, Mike, I just want to highlight for our listeners and those who are watching the podcast, because part of our intent here with this podcast in general, Indie Authors Tell All, is to help authors get better at things like being a guest on a podcast. So I wanted to highlight the way that you held up the book. You held it still long enough for us to actually see the cover, and you didn't cover the title with your fingers, and you held it still enough. And then when you took the time to actually slow down your website and repeat that, that's
Yeah.
really helpful as well.
And I didn't hold it up in front of my face either.
That's right. Yeah. Great. So then I'll go ahead and share about your science fiction book as well, and where they can learn about, what your website is for your sci-fi works.
So the website for the science fiction books is galaxytalltales.com. Galaxytalltales, 3 words.com. And that shows all the books in the series, and of course gives the link to where I sell them on Amazon.
Great. Thank you. And on your websites, are there links to your social media?
Yes. Now my social media is mainly Medium and Facebook groups for writers.
The platforms that you are using, Medium, is
Yes,
there is a link
that's the
to it on
number
your
one.
website, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so I want to highlight that for our listeners, because by using your website, that single place as your marketing hub, so one place, in your case two, just because you have the 2 genres, but typically it's the one website where you can have any additional information, where you may have an email newsletter sign up, and where you also have links to other platforms that you are not in control of. And I say that because, the social media platforms, typically we don't have full control over. They could disappear tomorrow and our content is gone.
Yeah.
Maybe. But the point is that your website is a place where you do have the maximum amount of control. So just wanted to
That's right.
highlight that. Yeah.
Well, let me just give one other link then. On Medium, the publication I have is for small business owners only.
Great.
So that's the name of the publication. So if you go onto Medium and you put that in the URL line, you'll see my articles.
Great. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners before we wrap up today?
Well, actually, I have one other genre that I did not mention. I've just got to mention it. I have one romance book, and the way this happened, my wife was writing a book called The French Woman's Ghost, and unfortunately, 2 years ago, she passed away before the book was finished. So it ended up with me and our daughter and another writer finished the book for her, and I wrote the kind of the climax and the ending of it, how they all lived happily ever after and all of that. I have never written anything like that before, probably won't ever again, but I fully enjoyed that.
That's a
The
beautiful memorial to her, I think.
Yes, it is. The
Yeah.
French Woman's Ghost.
Great. Great. Well, Mike, I want to thank you for taking this time to join me on Indie Authors Tell All, our podcast. So I invite all of our listeners to come check us out at BAIPA.org. That's BAIPA.org. Mike, thanks again.
My pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Indie Authors Tell All, a podcast from the Bay Area Independent Publishers Association.
Be sure to subscribe so you never miss our bi-weekly conversations with authors, publishers, and experts who keep indie publishing vibrant.
You can learn more and join our community at BAIPA.org. That's BAIPA.org. You don't have to live in the Bay Area to join us, since we're live on Zoom for all our events. You can email your questions and feedback to us at podcast@BAIPA.org. That's podcast@BAIPA.org. Thanks so much for joining us on the Indie Authors Tell All podcast.